It has now been a year since Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogan, Zena Kernodle, and Kaylee Gonzalez lost their lives to a senseless murderer on the University of Idaho campus. The man charged with this crime, Bryan Kohberger, now sitting in jail, awaiting trial. All this weekend, we're going to take a look back at the conversations, investigation, and interviews that we've conducted the last 365 days on this case as we continue to await justice for those 4 college students. 4 killed for what? The case against Kohberger. The story all weekend here on the Hidden Killers Podcast.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski.
Featuring retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer.
Expert witnesses being brought in. Expert witnesses are always interesting. You have good ones. You have bad ones. You have some where it's like, you're okay, but it seems like you're kind of bottom of the barrel for what we're trying to deal with here. Judging by who we've seen thus far, it feels like they're starting to kind of scrape that. But specifically, I'm talking about expert witness Gabriela Vargas. I'm sure she's a lovely person. She's the purple-haired woman who came in, self-taught genetic genealogist, began working on cases back in 2018, runs her own carpentry business while caring for her pet cockatoo. That's the bio. FBI came and visited her after her testimony. Let me ask you about that. Why would the FBI come and visit an expert witness after giving testimony in a case like this?
Well, specifically, the prosecutor called the FBI and said, we need you to go over there and interview her. And specifically, it was about part of her testimony that she apparently recanted before her fellow workers, peers, and also her concern about the declaration she signed. So interesting, and the Bureau wants to get her on record if indeed she's recanting what her testimony was. Again, you mentioned kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel. As an attorney, you can only get an expert. You don't want to hire an expert that isn't going to support your position. Yeah. And when you go through the cream of the crop and no one supports your position, you have to find somebody that will. And it sounds like even this witness is reneging on the support.
Do we know what part of her testimony she is reneging on, that she's reneged to her colleagues about?
No, it was very ambiguous and general, exactly what she was reneging on. But certainly it's going to be relevant, I think, just the fact that she's withdrawing that. Also, if you look at the first professional expert they had regarding the crime scene, you're talking A-list. And now, not a list.
Yeah.
So when you look at that, what's happening behind the scenes? One thing that could be happening is this judge, and again, I think this would all be sealed, but there's only so much money. She's already used 2 expert witnesses just to talk about media. She's used 4 expert witnesses just to talk about, the DNA and why she should have it, which I've always said, I think she could have made that argument, or her designee, who is an expert in the DNA field from a legal standpoint, that they brought onto the team. Nevertheless, at some point, the judge may be tightening up those funds because he has to approve them for experts.
So that could actually possibly be the answer of, well, we have a very limited budget on who we can get, so we may be able to only get folks that are at a certain price range, if you will.
Or in other words, if your budget, let's just take a round number, if your budget is $100,000 for an expert and you choose to bring on 4 experts, which they chose 4 experts to really impart the same message, now you're down to $25,000 per expert. So those expert fees are very small for an expert individually. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
she chose to bring 4 on.
Yeah, and so you just blow through the budget very quickly. What does it do as far as impacting other expert witnesses? I think a lot of this, when it comes to the defense of Kohberger, once we actually do get to trial, is going to be based on expert witness testimony, just trying to poke holes since there really aren't any other witnesses out there that can defend Kohberger. If we're seeing not so cream of the crop coming and going, FBI visiting them shortly thereafter, does that not send a signal to other expert witnesses that may be inquired of their services down the road that maybe this is one I don't want to get involved in?
Well, I think it's double-edged. I think some experts might want to get involved in this just because of the notoriety of it all and the publicity, having on your resume that you were part of the Bryan Kohberger case. But the other side of that sword is you don't want to be on the side of the loser, and you don't want to be on the side of representing your expertise and having it be crushed by the other expert because the facts aren't on your side. So expert witnesses need to be really careful in terms of where they, rest their laurels. It better be something that's supported by fact.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast.
Want more? Start binging on all of our true crime podcasts right now through Apple Podcasts and get an ad-free experience when you sign up to be a True Crime Today Premium Plus member exclusively on Apple Podcasts.
More of the Hidden Killers Podcast, dropping soon.
Press subscribe now.